Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. Today is June 7th, 2022. Thank you for being at our board meeting tonight. Our thought for today is nothing is more deceitful than the appearance of humility. It is often only the carelessness of an opinion, and sometimes the indirect boast. That's Jane Anderson. I'm going to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order tonight. Tonight, we're going to ask Commissioner Mason if he would lead us in our invocation tonight, and we're going to ask Commissioner Edwards if he will lead us in our pledge.
Let us all bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us back to this boardroom once again. We thank you for all that you've done for our county and all that you're about to do. And God, as we move forward in doing the business of this county, we ask that you would give us clarity, give us sound mind as we move to make the decisions for this county. We ask that you bless every citizen here in Newton County. We ask that you just continue to take our community to another level. God, we just want to bless you and thank you. And we give you all the kingdom, honor, and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Again, we want to thank all you guys for being here tonight. Next on the agenda is the agenda adoption. Have a couple of things that we need to add to the agenda. 12A, David Kent is here with the chamber. They want to speak, and they have an act of the board tonight, 12A. 12B is the Salvation Army request to reallocate funds. Salvation Army acts to reallocate funds. I seek a motion that we approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Next is citizen comments. This opportunity that we allow citizens to make comments about agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so. Please come and state your name, your address for the record, please. Agenda topics only. Thank you. I don't have anything in the chairman's report tonight. Mr. Sims?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we do have a report.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. We would like to report out for the month of May, just some of the highlights. One of the highlights is that I initiated our first coffee and conversation with the county manager. We had about 20 employees from different departments. We had an opportunity to talk about our operations and how we're going to continue to move Newton County forward. We're also working with our PO and information services to upgrade our website. We kind of heard a lot of the conversations from the board meetings about our website, so stay tuned for a new website. We also added the benefit of a 4K camera to further enhance our video quality. So look out for our videos, higher definition. Animal services, the shelter intake increased 25% from April. Intake also increased 225% from May of 2021 when we're holding 25 dogs as evidence. Shelter intake has increased year-to-date 28%. We also received $7,124 donation from the Humane Society of Newton County for the purpose of anesthesia machines. In the past, we reported we were going to have an electric charging station here at the historic courthouse. Our building services have been working with the city of Covington to get that done. The city has installed the new station, and in the next few days, they will continue to work on the sidewalk and walkway. We're also coordinating installation of a new automatic door of opening systems at the Senior Services Center. And we also are still coordinating installations of COVID testing kiosks to be located at the Health Department. Our EMA, they coordinated and supported ropes and rescue training for 12 Newton County fire personnel, 7 City of Covington personnel, 2 Henry County fire personnel, 1 Atlanta fire, and 2 Newton EMA personnel. They're also organizing 2 training sessions for citizens of Newton County on emergency preparedness to be conducted at the Turner Lake facility. They're also creating innovative ways to increase our code red registration in Newton County. Currently, registration stands at about 834, and our goal is to have more of our citizens sign up for code red. Our fire services is working on finalizing the Station 4, and we're planning a community-wide ribbon cutting. We also are starting working on getting donated Georgia forestry facility designs for renovation. And we also begin the conversations with the school system, which is, I want to highlight this, on creating a fire service curriculum to prepare students for possible jobs with opportunities in Newton County. Our finance department, we are working on finalizing our 23 budget, fiscal year 23 budget. Our budget books are also available on our website, and we'll also start working on an audit session for the closeout of fiscal year 2022. We're also continuing the management of ARPA allocation and distribution. GIS, we had 28 maps requested. We prepared 42 individual maps were printed or produced, and 5 requests for GIS data were received. Information system services, employee training participation rate for May was 72%, down from 83% from April. And we also had 52 real suspicious emails that were reported, and we are continuing with our training in regarding that matter. We are also, I mentioned about our web design, and IIT is working with Brian, our communication, on that. Recreation and Park, they had the plan and participated in the Fairview Park ribbon cutting. We also had the fishing derby, and 738 of our children and adults paid to use the gym, cardio room, and walking track in the month of May. And PIO, we mentioned about redesign of our website, and also we just want to highlight our usage on our website. We had 19% more page views in the month of April. Facebook, we're showing a 47% increase from a year ago, which is huge. And we also added 87 new followers on Facebook, which we have a total now of 15,428 followers. Instagram, I mentioned to Brian about seeing how we can have a more presence with Instagram. We have 646 in May, and totally we have 1,500 Instagram followers. We also are on YouTube. We have 288 subscribers, and totally we have 2,200 views in May. Our senior services, we had our older months held on Friday, May 6th, and we had 125 seniors and guests to enjoy that event. We also had 50 registrations completed in the month of May, and we also had 2238 home delivery meals for seniors, and on-site meals 1373. And from our transportation department, we had the BOC approved the contractors for the 2 bridge replacement projects, 95% of the complete of Highway 213 bridge repair, and we also received additional $2.9 million funding for ARC for the existing projects through the planning. And that concludes this month of May report.
Thank you, sir. We're down to the consent agenda. We do have an appointment on the consent agenda tonight for the library board. That is District 3. Ms. Lisa Fury. Are you here tonight? We always like to thank our citizens for being willing to serve on these boards, and she is another example of the great citizens that we have here in our community, so we want to thank her for her willingness to serve. Guys, I seek a motion that we approve the consent agenda. Thank you, sir. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. It's been motion by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is item number 10, District Attorney's Office requesting approval for state paid personnel to receive the same raises to their county supplement equal to the percentage raises as received by county employees. Mr. McGinley, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners. Sorry, that's really close. As you all are aware, I have a number of state-paid employees, including state-paid ADAs. I have 9 state-paid ADAs. 5 of them are full-time here in Newton County. And the 6th, the only reason she's not full-time here in Newton County, she handles resource court, which is mental health court in Newton County, or sorry, in Walton County. So the vast majority of the state-paid attorneys actually do work here in Newton County. Not the vast majority, but a majority. And those individuals, since June of 2021, just to give you an idea what those attorneys are doing, as far as trial, so calendar year, going back to June 2021, the state-paid attorneys here just in Newton County have tried, I'm just going to list the most serious charge of the trials: armed robbery, murder, attempted rape, kidnapping, aggravated assault, aggravated sexual battery, attempted murder, felony fleeing from law enforcement, aggravated child molestation, armed robbery, and child molestation. And then next week, we're trying another murder case that's being tried by state-paid attorneys. Those state-paid attorneys get a state salary. They also receive a county supplement. And essentially, and their state salary was increased by, obviously, the Georgia passed some cost of living increases for the state-paid individuals, but their supplement is not subject to that. And I'm asking that this board approve for the upcoming budget that whatever the, I guess, average raise is to the employees, because I understand that may include a step increase and a cost of living increase, that also be applied to the supplement that the state-paid attorneys get. And I think in the letter I wrote out, I think based on the previous proposed budget, I know that may change. I don't know what that is, but it was somewhere between 8 and 8.5% total raise for the county employees, and that would come out to be about $9,000 additional for the entire fiscal year for the county supplements. And that is the county supplements, not including me. I just want to be clear on that. I don't want to get down into the legalities of me as the elected DA. I'm not asking that my supplement be increased, but just that the state-paid employees' supplements for Newton County be increased. And I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Commissioners, any questions? I need a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Sanders.
I was reading over that. So you're just wanting to basically whatever the increase for the county to increase it, not the state COLA that's been happening with the commission.
Correct. Their state salary would be increased by whatever the state of Georgia does. This is just their separate county supplement.
Okay.
Would be, what I'm asking for is that be increased.
So are they getting a double? My question is, if they're getting an increase from the state and the county, is that a double increase?
No, because the state increase is only for their state salary. It doesn't take into account their county's salary. They are paid separately.
Okay.
And so am I. As the I get a state salary, and I'll just use myself as an example. I get a state salary, and then I get a supplement from each county. And again, I'm not asking for mine to be increased, but just use myself as an example. And whatever COLA is applied to my state salary does not apply to my county supplement. And any increase to my county supplement would not apply to my state salary. Does that answer your question?
Okay. I just have a question for the county attorney. Is that done in every county currently? That's all.
I can't tell you it's done in every county. I can tell you that is the normal practice. I'm not aware of any counties that do not supplement their court employees. And if they do, then it can be confusing. If the state gives a raise, that only applies to their state salary, and the county's raises would apply to the county supplement or the county portion of the salary. And that's what it sounds like the district
And I
is
can,
recommending.
Commissioner Sanders, I can just tell you, I wouldn't, I mean, there's 159 counties. There are some counties that I don't believe provide any support to their courts because they're so small. And those are the counties that have, 12,000, 15,000 people in South Georgia. Every county that's of any size, their court staff, that includes judges, secretaries, judges, the DA, ADAs, they get county supplements to basically supplement the state salaries.
And my other question is to the county manager, because I know we have not voted on the budget yet, and that was one of the things you were proposing for us to approve in regards to increases. Is that already including the budget, or is it going to be additional to the current budget that you're proposing to us?
Their request, I would need to verify from our finance director. I don't know if it's there, but we did speak with the DA's office, and their request indicated will be in line with the request that we would propose to the Board of Commission. So, for example, if we requested, whatever percentage, they would want the same percentage.
Any more questions? Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Prosecutors, did I hear you right? Total annually, if we went with what the county increase would be, total annually for these particular employees would be about $9,000 total.
Total split amongst all the employees,
Across
yes.
all the employees,
Total.
$9,000 for your department.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone? Commissioner Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. C. My question, I guess, is to the county manager, does the sheriff's department, is it similar to, or are they receiving similar to, or the same?
The sheriff department, sir, presented their proposal beforehand, and that was already taken care of with their existing budget.
Okay, because I just didn't want, other departments maybe to call me and say, well, we want to make sure that everybody if we can, be taken care of with the limited amount of funds that we do have. That was all of my thought. Thank you.
You're welcome. They actually already implemented theirs.
Commissioner Cowan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Randy, just to clear up everything, whatever the current county supplement is, and then whatever the additional increases are, you just want that moved up. Is that correct?
Yes, and essentially, all it is doing is just those state-paid individuals, county supplements, getting the same raises that the county employees get.
Correct.
Is all that I'm asking.
It's just the same, just to keep it in line.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess this might be a question for Brittany or,
Brittany's not here tonight.
okay, she's not here. Mr. Sims, basically what our district attorney is asking, have we already put that in our current budget? Or would this adjust or increase what we've already proposed with our current budget?
That's what I need to do is check with Brittany on it, because we actually had to change, so we need to just make sure those numbers were there. But it's about 9,000, so we can make the adjustment if it's approved by the board.
Okay.
And I know what was proposed last week. It was not in
Correct.
that, because obviously I
Yeah.
submitted this, I think, right around
Yeah.
the same time.
Yes.
And
It's
so if it's,
It's not.
I would assume it's not.
No, it's not.
So it would be $9,000 addition, 9,000 some change additional, depending on what the percentage raise is, because I guess we don't know that yet, so.
Sure. I just wanted to clarify to make sure if we've already put this in the current proposed budget, or if that's something that's going to have to be adjusted so that once it comes back before us, we will see that $9,000 already input under the DA's line item.
I just need to verify from our finance director, because we've changed it to taking the conversations that we had from the previous meeting. We made some changes, so I just need to make sure that that was adjusted too.
Okay. That was my only question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I think your acts tonight, guys, I don't think it's in there. If it was, I don't think he would be here tonight.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be smart or anything, but I think your acts is to approve for the county employees to get the county's portion of that raise, not the state part of the raise.
Correct.
Just the county portion of the raise.
Correct. And so whatever the budget that is approved, and that's why I'm coming before y'all, is to ask y'all to approve that to be included in the upcoming FY23 budget.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So guys, I seek a motion, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any more discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Sims, juvenile court requests for 3 service provider contracts for the FY 2023 required juvenile accountability courts, behavior courts, family treatment courts. Mr. Sims.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Juvenile court is proposing. Sorry about that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Juvenile court is proposing or requesting for approval, requests for 3 service provider contracts for fiscal year 23 for juvenile accountable courts, behavior court, and family treatment court in the amount of $116,000.
Guys, I seek a motion, please.
Could you just
You wanna-
explain what
Sure.
that was about?
Our juvenile court is requesting approval for 3 service provider contracts for fiscal year 2023 for juvenile accountability courts, behavior courts, and family treatment courts. The contract is in the amount of $116,000, total for 3 contracts.
I make a motion to approve that request for the juvenile court.
Can I get a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. C. My question is that within their budget, that they're making this request? This is no new money. This is just the money they already have.
This, from my understanding, this is a new grant for them, so it would be a new funding source for them.
So it's a grant they're asking that we have to approve, or grant that we are accepting, and they will receive the money?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah.
We
just wanna make sure we
These expenditures are
clarify.
already budgeted.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
There you go. Any more discussion? All in favor? It passed 5-0. Mr. Sims, item number 12.
The next item, juvenile court is now requesting for fiscal year 2023 contracts for indigent defense programs, including 3 attorneys and a court reporter. The amount of the request is for $167,000, a total for 4 contracts.
I seek a motion, please.
So moved as stated by the county manager.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Cowan. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Next is 12A. Mr. David Kent and the Chamber is here tonight to speak to us about a request that they are asking for. Thank you for being here tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners. Excited to be here representing Chamber of Commerce and our 565 members and 20,000 employees that those employers have on their payroll. Also stand before you appreciative of the work that you do, the service you provide to our county, the time and effort you put into it, as well as the complexity of the issues that you deal with on a monthly basis. So nice to be here, and thank you.
Thank you.
I think the reason I'm here representing the Chamber, I'm the Chamber Board Chairman this year. It's a 1-year appointment, and there's been some discussion at the Chamber Board about the future planning of the community. And it occurs to us, and I'm sure you all received the letter that we penned to you all in the last week or two. It just seems to us that our community is at a really a point in time that's very, very unique with the announcement of the Rivian plant that's coming just right up the road, the largest economic development project in the history of Georgia, a project that really dwarfs most economic development projects that we see in the state and even in this region. As many big projects as we've had over the last several years, this one is easily the biggest. And we think has tremendous implications for the growth and development of our community potentially. It also, I think, poses some significant risks to us if we don't really think through how we want to respond to such a large development. And we know that a lot of work has gone into already thinking with respect to land planning, zoning, community planning, development, and in no way are we here to denigrate or diminish any of that work or the people who've done it. As a matter of fact, we love our community, and we think it's a great place to work and live. We just believe, frankly, that with a project of this size and scale, it would behoove us as a community to step back and assess where we are, but what our opportunities are and how to best take advantage of not just the Rivian plant and its impact on the region, but all of what we know will happen, which is the ancillary businesses that surround that would flow downstream from that type of a development. And if you think about just the one project, it's 7,500 employees plus families. I think, correct me, but I think that's half the size of the city of Covington. It's that big. And so a lot of debate about land use and planning. What we've recommended collectively from the Chamber Board and staff on behalf of our members is that we take a step back. Well, I wouldn't say take a step back, but just take a pause and seek out some additional expertise and counsel from folks who do this type of work, who have experience looking at communities like ours who have landed this type of project. There aren't many out there, I don't think, but to look at the issues that it inevitably will create so we can get a better glimpse into the future of what this could turn into, good or bad, for our community. And so as we outlined in our letter, and not coming here idly by any stretch, we're willing to commit chamber dollars to help offset the cost of some independent expertise, particularly around land planning and zoning, to help us forge a path forward that we can all really be proud of and build on the great legacy that you all have started to create here. So that's in essence what we wanted to do. It's done in the spirit of wanting to help and wanting to be a net positive for the community, knowing that we represent, the business community here, and no means, again, I reiterate, is it an attempt to diminish or take away from all of the great work that's already been done. So with that, I'll pause. You all have the letter, I assume, have read it, so I'm happy to talk about anything related to that at your discretion.
Let me get Patrick to expound on some of that legally and all of that stuff, good stuff.
Yes, so as I indicated to the board members by email, this is not an uncommon procedure for local governments to go through when they revisit their zoning code. There are a number of consultants who are in the business of reviewing your existing zoning code, reviewing your growth patterns, discussing with stakeholders your goals, your objectives, and making proposals as to how to set up your zoning scheme going forward if you wish to change it. I don't want to suggest that Ms. Applewhite and her staff have not done a really good job, because they have. But they've also focused on some really discrete, specific issues. They have not focused it kind of a universal, I don't want to say rewrite, because you may not rewrite anything, but they haven't focused on really a universal look at the underlying policy of your zoning ordinance. We are frequently, my firm is frequently called on to do our small part, which is take that policy document and convert it into an ordinance. We're not land planners. I'm not a land planner. I don't do it. Ms. Applewhite and her staff do. If the board wishes, I can certainly help Mr. Sims and his staff craft our request for proposals or request for qualifications. But I will warn you, it will be an expensive proposition. It'll be a time-consuming and expensive proposition. But, Newton County may be at that crossroads where it makes sense to do it. And that's ultimately for y'all to make that decision whether or not you are.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kent, thank you for your presentation, as well as thank you for the Chamber offering this to this board and to our community as a whole. I think our county attorney kind of touched on where I would like to go with this discussion. If this board chose to proceed, accept that offer, I really wish this would have been presented to us a little bit earlier so we could have really been able to capitalize and even save some time.
Sure.
But of course, since we can't go back and do that, we can go with the now.
Sure.
And so, and I don't know if we know at this point, if our county attorney knows, if our county manager knows, what that, and I know there's been dollars that the chamber has offered.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that will completely take care of this process.
Yeah.
How much would this board have to invest into this, and how long is it going to take us?
Mm-hmm.
Because it has really been an extensive process already. And we are really at a point where we want to make the right decisions because we want to get this right.
Yeah.
But at what expense is that going to be for this board? Because
Yeah.
I talk to builders on a regular basis, and they are ready for this moratorium to be over.
Sure.
They are ready for it to be done. And the reason why is because they love Newton County.
Sure.
They want to work with Newton County. They
Sure.
want to be involved in our community. And what we're doing is we are now holding that for them to be able to do that. So I think this board really, we want to look at the expense and how much longer is it going to take us? Because it sounds like a great idea.
Sure.
But is it at the end going to be more expensive for us to do it, more time consuming, and is it really worth it, I guess you can say?
Yeah, no, great questions, Commissioner Mason, and fair points, I think. In an ideal world, we would have come, much sooner. I think the challenge we're all faced with is the news of the Rivian plant is relatively recent news, but it's so big that it has massive implications, right? And so I think that's the conundrum that we're all in. I know, and I've talked to developers as well who are chomping at the bit because they see the growth and opportunity here, right? And what a good thing. So acknowledge the timing. I don't necessarily, and again, speaking for myself here, I don't, if you choose to deal with the moratorium before we're able to complete an independent study, that's okay from my perspective, but we still have to address, you could always make modifications to it as we go along and as we learn more. With respect to the cost, I don't know exactly, I'm not a land planner either, right? I don't know exactly what it would cost or how long it would take. But it's something that we're willing to consider working with you on and giving input to. Obviously, time is of the essence just because Rivian is going to start building here, in the next year, and the impact will begin soon. And so we would advocate for moving it ahead as quickly as we possibly could. But we do know that there are some land planners out there that we could engage and get some preliminary pricing on, have further discussion about, and we would advocate to do that.
I can address those a little bit.
Thank you.
The first thing I would recommend you do is divorce this conversation from the moratorium. The moratorium right now is scheduled to be lifted in July. There is 0% chance you could perform this what we're discussing between now and July. To do this right, another comment I would make. A really good time to tackle this type of issue or this type of project is when you're also tackling your comprehensive plan. I don't know when that's due. Mr. Sims will speak to that. Before you do, let me throw two more quick things in. Whether you do this in conjunction with or separately from your comprehensive plan, to do it right, and to do it right is not just turning a land planner loose and say, right, it's a code. Yeah. It's seeking citizen input, business community input, chamber input. It's a several-month process, and it will cost you well into six figures. So, I mean, this is a substantial project, and it is going to be, if you choose to do it. And saying that, it is probably cost and time effective to couple it with your comprehensive plan, and I think Mr. Sims can talk about that more.
That's all I was just going to add. Staff advised me when I first started here that we were going to start doing a comprehensive plan this July. So I think this would be perfect timing to be in sync with what they're presenting. And I think as far as our organization, I think it's needed. I think we do have the staff in-house to do things, but I also think having a third party that specializes in this type of service would go a long way for our county.
Okay. Commissioner Cowan, then Commissioner Henderson.
I think Patrick answered my question as far as the moratorium.
Okay. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. You know, as I look back on it, I think that when it was first discussed about, well, I take that back. It wasn't discussed. We knew that a plant was coming, a larger plant, but there was no information shared with, I know me as the commissioner, I'm not sure about the other commissioners. I think, and so the question that I asked at that point, and feel free to chime in, Commissioner, and correct me if I'm wrong. And I said, well, what plant's coming? They said, well, somebody might tell somebody the big plant's coming to cut the Newton County, and it might spoil it from coming, and it might keep it from, and guess what? A big plant came, and we didn't know anything about it. And the first thing I seen was a big headline about the citizens of Social Circle, and at the end of Newton County was raising HELL about a plant that they had no clue. I didn't have a clue, but I knew something was coming. But yet, you know, I consistently raised my hand up to give a check, a blank check, for somebody to come in that I knew little about, in which I stopped now since then. You're going to have to have citizen input. This is not my county. It's not your county. It's our county, and we as the people need to know what's coming to our county and how will it best fit us. Now I can tell you what I've learned, and I think some people from the chamber already know. We can bring all these big plants, and most of the folks in Newton County won't get a job. They'll bring the folks with them, and then we all know that the developers will get a big chunk of money. And I like developers, but most of them don't even live in the county. So I think that there's going to have to be some planning. I think the public is going to have to be involved. I think the Board of Commissioners is going to have to be involved. And we need to stop all this. If by chance we get another larger plant that will move to our beautiful county, our great county, and make sure that your commissioners, the one who's holding their hands up, writing the checks for these people to come in, to raise their hand up for the tax abatement that a heap of them will get, know exactly what's going on in our county. It used to be that way. It's not that way anymore. And so I think the citizens in the county ultimately will suffer because of that. And I'll be the first to raise my hand up and say that we need some help. But right now, we kind of, it was just something, as far as me, J.C. Henderson, was just dumped on me. And to make a decision, I should have known about it a year, maybe a year and a half ago.
Commissioner Sanders.
My sentiments to my colleagues here on my left. We were speaking when the commissioner was stating a love for development. I meet with my constituents every fourth Monday of the month, and I have developers on. And the question that I ask them is, If you lived in this county and you wanted these things around your home, how would you feel? They said, I would want it. So the love for some of these developers, I don't think is there, it's the money making the funding. So my question would be, if we move forward with this, where would the funding come from? If it's gonna cost almost 6 figures. And I do agree with commissioners that the citizens need to be involved, residents, because you're a resident of Newton County, citizen of state. Residents should be involved in this because that's a big chunk of money. And we're already talking about we need funding to do certain things, so where would this come from?
Mr. Sims?
Sure. If it's the will of the body, then we would either identify from contingency, being that we have the budget now, or we would, as we're doing right now, the budget is not finalized, we could go ahead and add this particular item to the budget.
You're gonna get us killed, Mr. Sims. Yeah, I would be against it as far as adding it to the budget because we're already getting flack from the budget right now. So we would have to figure out a way if this is what we're moving forward. But I have faith in our employees, I really do. We appointed certain people to put them in place. And if they are appointed by this board to be put in place to do various things, and you have appointed certain directors in their departments, I have faith that they can do the job.
Mr. Sims?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I spoke with our interim director about this, and she actually was excited about having the expertise assistance on this. She just also texted me and indicated that our comprehensive plan is due on 2023. Yep. So having a third party to assist with this, she indicated she would appreciate it.
Commissioner Cowan?
Thank you. In regards to Commissioner Henderson's comments, it's my understanding the Rivian plant is not even located in Newton County. But the effect of that's going to be the impact on Newton County for people looking for places to live and everything. So we've got to do a comprehensive plan at some point. The county attorney's recommended that we do this in conjunction with the comprehensive plan. Is that correct? We got to do that anyway. That's a mandate by the state. How much it costs? Chamber of Commerce is going to contribute some. I suppose we'll have to too. We'll figure out what those numbers are, but I will tell you this, land use is a complicated matter. It is very complicated. I wish I had specialized more into that when I was in law school. I wouldn't be here. But, and Patrick's probably thinking the same thing. But it's very complicated. It's not easy to figure out zoning, development, because everybody has an opinion of it. And I, you know, my professor in law school told me that zoning is not designed to keep you from doing what you want to with your property. It's designed to keep your neighbor from doing what he wants to do with his property. So it's complicated. So I think in the best interest of the county, and if we can avoid any potential problems with the moratorium, I would support going with a consultant to do this because it's just so complicated. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree. I believe the time is now for outside expertise. In fact, I believe somebody mentioned a few minutes ago, we're probably a year too late or more on that. Moving forward with, I agree with the fact that our comprehensive plan due in 2023, along with a consultant to help us with our land planning with Rivian and other potential projects that may be out there right now. So I believe it's time. I don't know if ARPA funds can be used for funding this. I don't know. I think that'd be worth looking into. That's I don't want to call that free money, but that's money. It's not budgeted money. So that may be an avenue for the county, and we certainly appreciate the Chamber's partnership, no doubt. So I certainly support a consultant I don't know how we arrive at what we spend or how we find those consultants, but I believe that we don't have the capacity. We don't have the capacity. I think we have the expertise. We don't have the capacity here in the county to take on such a task, so. Thank you,
Yeah, and
Mr.
I would
Chairman.
just add, Commissioner Edwards, that, you know, our offer to help this process is no reflection on the staff we have, the county manager, any of that. We have confidence in all of those folks. It really stems from just the size and magnitude of the potential impact that that a Rivian plant would bring. And you're right, it's not exactly in our county, but it, you know, it's close enough to where we're sitting. It's
gonna have
closer
an
to where
impact.
we're sitting now than it is to any other city.
It's gonna
And
have a
so it's
substantial
going to be a
impact.
massive impact.
And if I could add, what we're really talking about here is planning, not zoning. Zoning is easy. I mean, in the scheme of things, zoning is easy. Planning is really what we're talking about. We're talking about, you know, the navigational beacon that this county is going to follow. The details, you know, how big is a setback? What's the, you know, what are the construction materials? That's zoning. That's a little bit easier. What we're really talking about right now is that section. Your comprehensive plan is probably this thick.
Yeah.
About that much of it is your land use element. That's really what we're talking about. And what we're talking about is us fleshing out that land use element and then having that consultant help you take your land use element and make sure your zoning ordinance adopts the plans and the goals and the objectives of your comp plan. And that's something that most jurisdictions rely on a consultant to do. I think the county has traditionally, the chair told me it's been the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. You're a member of the Regional Commission. They provide a service. It's not free, but they do provide a service. So, you know, it could be that you reach out to them and they do it through, they have individuals that's all they do. So, I mean, I do think it would make a lot of sense to include this as part of your comprehensive plan. And in the meantime, your staff and the zoning proposals that have been presented to you, act on those, lift the moratorium, move forward. I think that would be, because just because you take zoning action now doesn't mean you can't take it again.
Yep.
And that work's already done. All that's really left with your staff zoning is for this board to vote, you know, to hear it and to vote on it. We've done the review, we've made the revisions, your staff has made the revisions. That's effectively ready to go, subject to your comments.
Yep. And I think it works kind of like the strategic plan did. You will meet with the stakeholders in each district, the business community, the citizen in each district. We'll hold the town halls meetings and things like that. And this is a service that the Region Commission do offer. And because we are a member, I don't think it'll be that expensive to do it. So, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Patrick, for clarifying, because I think that's what I wanted to know as well. Should we do this separately from the moratorium so we can actually move forward in addressing the moratorium? And then once we address that, come back and say, let's look at what process we can put in place, what the expense is going to be, what the time frame is going to be, once we at least get through that hurdle from the moratorium.
Yeah.
So that was, thank you for clarifying that, because that was really the thing that was puzzling me the most, to think that we were going to have to keep that moratorium in place while we did this study. But if we can actually do them separately, that may be the best foot forward. Now, it was tonight, were we planning on voting on this, or was this just a discussion?
It's an act, so.
So it's actually an act tonight. So I guess my question is, how soon will we know exactly what the expense is going to be and what the timeline looks like?
I think the thing to vote on would be to vote to direct your staff to initiate requests for proposals or requests for qualifications for these services. Include the comp plan and the zoning, and get some proposals in, and then you'll have something to analyze and make a real decision on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Just-
Go ahead, sir.
Just adding, I think it would be a RFQ might be more appropriate.
All right. Commissioner Edwards and then Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to, my ask or my suggestion would be that this partnership continue not only monetarily, but with the input of the chamber as well.
They are stakeholders.
And
Yep.
as our county manager moves forward, that he incorporate, that would be my ask, my individual ask anyway, that we incorporate the input of the chamber as we move along. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. I know during the conversation, and I was listening to the conversation, what we were talking about, and I think you said, Mr. Chairman, that it wouldn't cost that much. So do you have an estimate as far as how much you think or you believe it may cost us?
Commissioner, I think it may be around $100,000. I would have to, go back and look at what we paid for the strategic plan. But I think it should be probably around $100,000. So I'm gonna ask for a motion, guys, so we can go back and forth that we get this going, and if you want the chamber to be involved, you have to state that. You would need to state that in your motion.
Okay.
Yeah, we know exactly. Want to state the motion? Okay.
If this meets with the board's approval, I would recommend a motion to direct the county manager to initiate a request for qualifications from consultants to commence work on your comprehensive plan and a zoning review, and to solicit and accept the input,
Support.
communication, and support from the Chamber of Commerce.
Can I get a motion on that?
Make a motion to do that. Let's go.
Okay, you got a motion and a second. Now discussion. I think Jarvis had his hand up first.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note that
JC.
according to our interim planning director, we already have an RFP out for our comprehensive plan. So I don't know if we want to change that one out or.
Maybe just amend the agenda just to call for zoning services in connection with the
Correct.
comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
And the chamber.
And the chamber.
Commissioner. Can you amend your motion to?
Yes, however y'all said to do it, amend it. Go ahead.
Wow, okay. Commissioner Henderson, can I get a second? You second, all right. Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan, second by Commissioner Henderson. Any more discussion? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, okay, Counselor, you mentioned previously land planning and zoning are separate, different.
They're different, but zoning requires planning. And zoning is the tool that implements your planning. And you can't really zone without a plan, right? So
Okay,
you want them to, they go hand in hand. They can be drafted separately. And, I would hate to see you scrap your existing RFP for consulting services for the comprehensive plan, because that's gonna set you back. And it could be that, maybe that same consultant submits a request for qualifications. Because we're doing an RFQ, it's not a hard bid. It doesn't require you to select the low bidder. And it could be that you get proposals from the same consultants, and you're able to evaluate them kind of at the same time.
Well, I only asked because you stated your motion, it was heavy on the zoning, on the zoning piece.
Originally, it was both. This time, because you've already got the amended motion, because you've already got the planning element underway, only add the zoning element.
Okay.
And then the county manager can specify that we want to make sure that we look heavily at the planning part of it,
Okay.
right?
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir. Next, which is very important, the Salvation Army is asking for us to, I think, reallocate some funds around. Mr. Sims?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Salvation Army is requesting for us to change their initial budget from utilities to mortgage and rental assistance in the amount of $125,000. They found that more citizens are seeking or needing assistance with mortgages and rental versus utilities.
And they're not asking for any additional money right now. This is just shifting it from one line item.
Right, this is no additional money.
I seek a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. It passes 5-0. Next is item number 13, Newton County Facilities. Request for Newton Board of Commissioners to adopt resolution R060722. Mr. Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight, we're just following up on a previous facilities work session, which was held on May 3rd, 2022 at 6 o'clock. During that particular work session, we presented to you all information about our community centers and facilities. We had our facilities director, Jason Johnson, provide details on each of our centers and facilities. We also heard from the county attorney who advised currently we have no policy in place for our community centers and facilities. And also during that particular work session, I made it very clear that we value our existing relationships with our community partners, and the purpose of the work session was to provide uniformity for all of our facilities. Today, we're here with a proposed resolution, and the resolution is to address our findings. We're proposing to terminate the existing lease agreements and have one lease agreement for all of our community partners. Our purpose is that we want to have uniformity and a uniform policy for all of our community centers and facilities. We want our community partners to provide the essential services to the community, but we also want to protect the best interest of the county. And we think having a uniform policy is the place to have that. If you see your document that was provided by our clerk, it provides the details on page 2 through 4 on what would be expected for the tenants, as far as what we'll be expecting for existing tenants or new tenants as if this resolution is approved. Again, I want to emphasize we do value our partnerships with our existing partners, but we do, when I had the facilities director to take me out to the different facilities, I discovered we had different lease agreements. We also had one tenant that did not have a lease agreement, and I thought it was in the best interest of our county to have a uniform policy. That's why we have this before you all, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you. Let me get a motion on the floor, please.
Okay, motion to do what?
You can approve or deny, either one.
So we can discuss it?
Yep.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R060722 to open up, allow opportunity for discussion.
Can I get a second? Can I get a second? Second. Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan and second by Mason, Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? There we go. Commissioner Sanders.
I actually sent the email out in regards to this resolution. For one, we had a workshop, I want to say it was about 3 weeks ago, and we requested a copy of this resolution that was supposed to be sent to us directly afterwards, and we never received it. We just got a copy of this 42-page document on our desk. The first one was sent, the revised vision was sent this morning. So you're expecting commissioners to look at a 42-page legal document and vote on it. It's asinine, for one. Secondly, we have 2 tenants without a lease. One has been without a lease on this county property for years, and it has been allowed for years, and I stress the word years. Last year in 2021, I brought this to the attention, and I was told it was normal. But this year, we're in 2022, when the African American Historical Committee, which was done by our previous county manager, because when I came aboard, I was aware that they were given the keys to move into the facility. And when they moved in the facility, now we have an issue, and I have a problem with that. We always quoting discrimination because you have 3 African Americans sit on this board, and anything we say, everybody want to say discrimination. But when we look at this right now, it is blatant and clear when you have allowed a tenant to be in a property. We want to talk about lease, we want to talk about assets, we want to talk about liabilities now. But when I brought this up last year, it was okay because it was tradition. What about the liabilities? What about the insurance? What about all those things when we have allowed this to occur for 12 plus or 10 plus years before our previous county manager? It's been going on for years. I was able to, I apologize to everyone while I was looking down while you were talking. I was not being rude. I was trying to read this 42-page document. So that's why my head was down the whole entire time, trying to read a legal document before I'm able to vote on it, before the citizens to be able to vote on it effectively and do it right. I believe in fairness, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to be fair. People may say that I speak out because I'm a female. I'm going to speak out on what's right and what's wrong, and I'm going to do it every day and all day. And this is wrong. And also on page 2, you're saying the person that has been allowed in that facility did a complete ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce. It was in the newspaper, and we're saying that we didn't know about it. And you're saying you want them to completely occupy the building without even talking to them first before it came before the board for a vote. It is ridiculous, and we have to stop this in this county. We're using, I've said this in my emails, and our emails are all open, and you can look through my emails, and you can ask our county clerk if you want a copy of it. We are using this agenda for strategic and personal reasons, and it needs to stop in this county right now. Diversity is here, and it's going to stay, and if we're going to work together, and we're calling ourselves One Newton, which don't even have a mission statement or our objective, because we don't even know what One Newton means, we need to be One Newton, and we need to stop this mess right now. And that's all I have to say.
Anyone, Commissioner? Come on, guys. Guys, we are in a public meeting. Please refrain from, I'm sorry? Please refrain from outbursts, please. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. You know, when we first sit down and we talked about that particular building, the T.K. Allen building, you know, it was always something, and I just couldn't understand it. You know, we should have been really just honored, and I think most of us on the board were just honored for that particular band room that Mr. Allen had occupied for years and tried to teach people like myself music who never did really get it. We should have been honored for it being, first of all, named after him. But it seemed that it was just something against him, against his name, his legacy, to me. And when Miss Terry James had came and we were trying to give it to the Alumni Association, which had they occupied it, it wouldn't have been no problem. There was a negotiation, you know, in lieu of the $5 million that we did for the fire station, and everybody agreed that we could get a little something. Commissioner Sanders was over in her district, the playground and exercise equipment and stuff, and in District 4 it was the T.K. Allen building. There was no strings attached to it. Our only understanding was that we were going to come back and work out a contract of sort with Ms. Terry James, similar to all the rest of the contracts and she would be allowed to stay there for Afro-American history. But it saddened me, and I talked a little bit the other day I was here, I kind of over here every day, that it seems that we typically use somebody who don't really know the history. And Mr. Sims, you don't know the history here in Newton County, our history and the struggles that we've had here just for us to sit up here on these seats. It wasn't until 1976 until there was a commissioner sit up here by the name of Reverend Harold Cobb. And to try to set us back now, you know, it makes me feel bad. And the fact that it seems that you're the one that may be somewhat, to a degree, my opinion, being used to do that. You know, I couldn't in my heart. We should be celebrating, we should work together to make sure that Ms. Terry James get a contract. Simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. Heap of stuff if you just talk to people. If you would just took the time out and maybe said, well, you know, I want to sit down and talk with the commissioners and find out where they're at on it. Instead, we come out in public and this is what we get. Kick out. I'm telling you, that's wrong. Work with her. Make sure you get a contract. The same as my good friend, Mr. Berry. I know him. I know he's been there for years. I've been here 26 years. He's been there for longer than that. I know him. And he's a good person. But so is Miss Terry James. She should be there. She should be in that building representing the community. That's the reason why on yesterday evening I said that on District 4 author funds, $110,000 to help organize the history of Newton County, of people who work just as hard in this county as anyone else. She should be there. Let's stop fighting a little bit of a change. We all been living in this county for years. It was not gonna hurt anybody. You know, I put up with the statue for years. I put up with the plantation for years, you know. So, but now, you know, it's something hard. Y'all need to get off this, man. Need to get off this. Let's work together on a common cause of doing something good for all of us in our community.
Commissioner Cowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not looking at this from the viewpoint of any tenants that may be or may not be in the buildings. I'm looking at the buildings and who has the authority to lease the buildings, and do we have a systematic way of handling a lease agreement and acceptance of that lease agreement and making sure that the terms of that lease agreement are fulfilled. I'm very, excuse the phrasing, but I'm black and white on that. It's either one way or the other.
Same color blood.
You know, and to me, it's just a matter of, it's a legal matter to me. It's just, these are our facilities, they're owned by the county. I don't know which ones have lease agreements. I don't know anything about any of them. But it seems to me, and it seems like when I took office in 2017, there was an issue regarding some of this stuff at that time. Subsequent to that, we've added Cousins School to the inventory of county property. The question is, do we have a procedural method for handling leases of property? And we don't. Here's the thing, is we want to make sure that whoever's holding that property and using that property has proper insurance if it's necessary. You know, whatever the terms of the lease is, that's irrelevant to me. But if we terminate the leases right now, we can allow the tenants to stay. Is that right, Patrick? Stays tenants at will. I saw that. I didn't like that.
You can't, I mean, this.
We could do a tenancy at will, right?
You can, this board can do what this board wishes.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, then I would say that we need a procedure in place for handling leases, and the resolution is there, provided, however, you don't go and kick anybody out until we adopt this resolution and allow them to stay as a tenants at will till such point, and we just continue working on it, making sure our procedures are right. That gives us the time to review the document, but it also gives us a direction of where we're going. So We're not kicking anybody out. They're going to continue to work as they have been, would not affect anything they've got. It's just that we're going to update, put in place a procedure for leases and how those things are approved. I don't know what the procedure is, to be honest with you. Never had one. We've never had one here. So I would continue with the resolution, provided, however, that current occupiers of the building stay as tenants at will until such time we adopt the resolution for handling leases for community centers.
Anyone else? Commissioner Mason?
motion?
Hold on. You can't.
Let me, before you make that, let me explain what this resolution does with respect to creating a policy. And then you decide if you want to make a substitute motion based on the document in front of you. If you look at page 2 and ignore paragraphs numbered 1 and 2, those are the two paragraphs by which we terminated leases and terminated occupancy. If we ignore those and start at number 3, the procedure that we have recommended is this: that the county manager would solicit and accept applications for tenancy in these 4 properties. And those 4 properties are located at 4138 School Street Southwest, which is the current location of the Washington Street Community Center, 7200 Lassiter Street, which is currently Nelson Heights Community Services, 65 Mount Tabor Street, which is where Mr. Barry is occupied, and the Cousins Middle property at 8150 Carlton Trail, which is where the T.K. Adams Band Room is. So what our policy recommends is that the county manager solicits and accepts applications for tenancy in each of those community centers, that he develop and publish an application form to be completed by all applicants for tenancy, and that he establishes a deadline no earlier than August 5th, 2022, by which all completed applications shall be accepted. If you look over on page 3, we've identified 7 pieces of information that must be included within the application. The full name of the applicant, the full name and address of each board member, officer, director, and employee of the applicant, evidence that the applicant is a not-for-profit entity in good standing under the laws of the state of Georgia, evidence that the applicant has been granted and maintains 501c3 status by the Internal Revenue Service, a full and complete description of the public programs and services that will be provided at the center, evidence of the applicant's financial ability to provide the services. We recommended 3 years' worth of audited financial statements or tax returns, and then whatever other information the county manager would think is appropriate, things like references or something like that. There's always some discretion involved in that. That upon the receipt of those applicants, the county manager would present all completed applications to this board for approval. And then under and then we also have a requirement that the county manager repeats this application on an annual basis. So the new leases would be 12-month leases. Number 4 sets forth what we have recommended you consider as your basis for making the decisions. So once the manager presents the applications to the board, they should be placed on an agenda as soon as we can get it on an agenda. And then this board selects the successful applicant for each one of those community centers. In theory, you could have more than one if the facility allowed for it. The items that we recommended you consider are the following: the services and programs to be offered by the applicant, the extent to which those services and programs fulfill a need in Newton County, the history, if any, of the applicant in providing services and programs within Newton County and elsewhere, the financial strength of the applicant, and whatever other matters you deem important. So that's the procedure we're recommending you adopt. Whether, the reason for paragraphs numbers 1 and 2, the termination, was to sort of hit a reset button. That was a reset button. And then we would have jumped into creating this new procedure. So we can create the new procedure, we can solicit these applications, and then you could, when the board considers and votes on an application, you could at that point terminate the existing relationship and create the new one. You could do it in that order. But we wanted to, it was our goal to just lay it out there. Here's what we're proposing. It's obviously, it remains with this board to make the decision that you make. But I will tell you this. Commissioner Sanders has a point. I think it is important that in this type of relationship with these facilities, that it be uniform. Right. There should not be this, and look, I've heard it for 6 or 8 months, the belief that one organization or one community center has got a better deal than the other one. That shouldn't be. Everybody who is occupying these facilities should have the same deal. They should be held to the same standards, and we have proposed a uniform lease, which is effectively the lease that exists now, with a couple of revisions. One revision is the term. We made it a 1-year term, so this board can reevaluate on an annual basis whether the right tenant is occupying the right property. And we've made a use restriction where we, and it's way in the back, it's blanks. So when the successful applicant tells us what they're going to do, we will insert that, and that will be the only use that is permitted in that property unless this board gives written permission. Right. So if an applicant comes in and says, I'm going to make one up that I don't think you'll see, I want to open a train museum and celebrate the history of trains. Well, that would be inserted as the permissible use of the property, and that would be the only permissible use. So the train museum moves in, and if all of a sudden they decide they want to, we don't want to be a train museum anymore, we want to be a dog grooming facility. Well, you can't do that. Right. You know, and that way you can make sure that these are publicly owned, governmental owned facilities. And I think I'll say this for Mr. Sims and myself. I think we were taken aback by the fact that there were these facilities that the government, the county manager, the facilities directors had no idea what was happening. And that shouldn't be. That simply shouldn't be.
I agree.
So, and likewise, nobody should occupy county government property by lease or otherwise without this board, who has exclusive control over county property. This board has that control. Mr. Sims doesn't have it, the Recreation Department doesn't have it. Control over county property belongs to this board. And I want to make sure that this board is the entity that decides who, how, what, when, and where these facilities are operated. So.
Well, I would think our general liability coverage carrier would demand that we have a lease agreement on all our county properties that we're putting people out there and allowing them to use. So I see that as an issue there, make sure we got that. I agree with everything that you've got in here. One piece of property, though, this leased, I guess it's leased, I don't know, driver services.
Well, we excluded government agencies.
Is it stated in here that you excluded them?
Well, this only applies to those 4 properties I listed.
Okay, so this only applies to the non-governmental
That's right.
properties. Okay.
That's right.
All right. Quick question. Who pays the utility bills?
The lease suggests that the tenant does. I don't know, and I don't know how it happens today. And there won't be any property
There won't
taxes,
be any
provided
property
they're
tax.
providing a public service. Now, they could engage, if they engage in a private service, somebody opens a store, they could
That's up to
subject
them.
themselves to some property tax.
But the immediate concern would be who would pay the utility bills. I don't want us to have to pay them if
Yeah.
we're leasing the building to them.
The lease states that the tenant would pay those bills.
Okay.
So,
That would
If
I'm
you're asking
fine
how
with
it-
everything other than terminating people, putting them out with just a limited notice. Allow them to continue as a tenant at will until such time we get this document adopted.
Well,
Well,
I
to
do,
convert-
I do know that Washington Street and, Nelson Heights Community Center pay their utilities.
Okay. I don't know who pays what.
out the appropriation.
But y'all pay them, but y'all take it and pay it, yeah. Yeah, so, now, I don't know about, DJJ and, DDOS, out driver service, I don't know about them. But
there is a lease agreement with those entities. I don't-
Absolutely.
I just don't know as I sit
Well,
here
hey, I
exactly
tell you, I
what
remember
But
that.
everybody needs to be on the same
Well-
process, same lease
Well,
agreement. Is that correct? Is that what we're trying to do?
It's driver license
Get everybody the
service.
same process, same lease agreement?
We pay the bill and provide the building.
Yeah, the Department of Driver Services, the other occupants, sort of the governmental entities that operate within those other things, they have entirely different lease agreements.
Okay.
The DDS brings you their lease agreement, if they're gonna occupy government
Okay.
property. You also have leases with,
But there's a piece of paper somewhere that you can show your insurance carrier and
Yes.
say, hey, this property's leased, here's the lease agreement. And they can say, they check their little box and say, okay.
my recollection, and Mr. Sims may recall better, but my recollection is that all of the other occupants at the Cousins Middle property all have written leases that this board has approved. Are they paying utilities as well? I don't know that, as I sit here, I don't know the terms.
we got Commissioner Edwards, and then we got Commissioner Henderson.
Okay, so I just wanted the board to know that when I went out to do my assessment with the facility directors, there was no ill will intended to end long-term relationships with our current community partners. But as a professional, when I did notice that we had some tenants that had different lease agreements, as well as some that did not have lease agreements, I would not be doing my job as your interim county manager if I didn't bring this to you all's attention and make sure that we had one uniform lease agreements for all of our partners and all things were in place to protect our county. So I wanted the community to know that, as well as you all to know that. It was not that I was trying to terminate or change relationships with existing partners, or if I had a preference over one community over another. One of the good things about hiring a person from the outside, I don't know none of the communities from either, from one side to another side of town. I'm just doing my job, and if we don't have lease agreements, we should have lease agreements.
You're right.
Commissioner Edwards, you have anything? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. You know, I think Patrick, he kind of said it best when he said that we all should have a uniform policy. And I think every county, well, you lead by example. That's what I'm really wanting this board to know. And when you lead by example, you make sure that everybody, you go over to Gaithers and make sure they have an agreement. You go in the DM, the driver services, make sure they have an agreement, and go to all of them. You don't exclude one and not do the other. And I think that was where we was at, and that was the reason was my concern, Mr. Sims, was that it seemed like some, we just said, well, it's okay, because maybe you might have been influenced by a few people or during a conversation. They said, well, we can worry about that one. Just make sure we get on over here on Carson Trail and get that one. And so, but let's do it the right way. If we're gonna do it, everybody, call to the governors. Call over to the governor and say, hey, look here, the DMV said we want y'all to pay light bill, we want y'all to pay this, and y'all pay that, and make sure they pay it. And that way we all be on the same page.
Right. Commissioner Sanders.
I just wanted, for clarity, that we're going to, because we have entities that are also nonprofits that are not following this exact same lease. So is everybody gonna, if we're doing the utilities and very forth, it needs to be, like Commissioner Henderson just stated, everybody needs to be on the same page. And in this agreement, it only speaks on 3 companies, 3 entities. So we might need to edit this resolution. I don't think we need to vote on it tonight. I think it needs to be edited, and then we vote on it later. Maybe there could be an agreement or something with the tenants that don't have a lease. Maybe give them something temporary for right now until we get something that we can have concrete to vote on and give us time to review it. Let's stop giving commissioners information the day before or the day of, and then expecting us to come in here and vote. That's not fair. That's not giving us enough time to be able to vote and have our residents see us vote in a way that we should be, making sure we have all the information. So that was one of the things that I want. Also, it's showing that TK Adams band room is, you calling this the community center now? This is a band room. Because we're listening, we keep saying community center for everything, but that's a,
We included it within the category of properties that we're referencing as community centers. The name doesn't, I mean, the name, I don't think, I mean, the other properties are referred to by their address, School Street property, Lassiter Street property. Where we said TK Adams Band Room, that's just an identifier
Okay.
for that building. That's all that is.
yeah, I see it's a band room, but I know we were saying both the properties were community centers, and community centers have certain functions. So that's why I was making sure that we outline what the property actually serves as.
And ultimately, the use that property served will be determined by the tenant that you approve.
Okay.
And what we did do, and just, you know, this was not an effort, this was not written to get rid of any of your existing tenants. It was written to reset, and we included within the things that you should consider when you decide who moves into these facilities, the history of the applicant in providing services. So if you've got an applicant that's been in a facility providing those services, you're expected to take that into account. It's not the only thing you take into account, but we want you to take it. I think that's just good policy. It's good policy to take into account the fact that someone's in there, or even if they're not in there, they have been serving the community for some period of time. So what we really wanted to do was make this more intentional, because it seemed to me, and I think to Mr. Sims, and I don't want to, you tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it didn't seem to be any intention in who occupied these properties. It was kind of, if you were there and you talked to the right person at the right time, you might get to move in. That's not good government. It's not good property management. You know, so we just, I will tell you, this policy, some version of this policy, and I don't disagree with the, look, I don't have any heartburn over leaving the tenants in place while this goes through. That's a policy decision for you to make. But the establishing a process is something that y'all really ought to do. I'll say this, however, though, the 2 existing leases, in order to convert them to tenants at will, we must terminate the lease. But we don't have to do that right now, because we maintain the right to terminate the lease. However, there's a pretty extensive notice required. So my hope would be if we specifically, I think the Washington Street lease has a 6-month notice period. My hope would be, you know, pick a date. If on August 5th, this board approved Washington Street to be the tenant, my hope would be we would execute a new tenant, a new lease, and cancel the old. And that would be the truth with all of this. That would be my hope.
Okay, we got Commissioner Edwards. Let me let Jarvis go first, if you don't mind.
Yep, and also just for the record, when I did go out to visit the facilities, one of the tenants that did not have a lease, the TK, they indicated to me that they did not have a lease and they wanted to go ahead and start having a lease, so they were open to it. So I don't want no one to think that they wanted to operate without having a lease. She made me aware that there was no lease, and she was ready to go ahead and sign the lease. So she was aware that I was coming, you know, towards you all with this recommendation as far as having a lease at their facility.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you. Thank you. So, my heartburn, I'll use the counselor's term, my heartburn is across these community centers, there seems to be different purposes for different community centers. We've got community centers that have organizations that are leasing for a community intent. We have organizations that are simply using a community center or a building for a particular purpose, for meetings, I guess you would say. And then we've got community centers that simply make that building available for the community to use, not one organization to use. So throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I feel like is what we're doing if we decide to unilaterally terminate leases. I'm struggling with, you may have a community center that's totally administered by an individual, and it's leasable to anybody within reason. I mean, it's just available to them, and the individual now has got to be a nonprofit, 501c3 status. I just if that person's not the one, that 501c3, then an organization that takes it over or gets that particular facility, that building's no longer used what it's been used for years, which is the community itself to rent and use it, unless that organization decides they want to do that. So for a facility like that, how do we remedy that? I mean, what?
So we could address that in this document. We could acknowledge that, I mean, we could remove the not-for-profit requirement. What I don't want to see you do is open up, I don't want to see you turn your government buildings into profit buildings. That's not appropriate for government buildings. If you've got a building that's just being made available to the public, and there is someone, not a county employee, and someone not answerable to the county at all, essentially managing that property, that to me is a little bit problematic. Who sets the rents? Who ensures that the tenants are or that the users are providing, appropriate release agreements, signing agreements, security? Where's the rent money go? And while you might know the answer to those questions, this board doesn't know. Your staff has no instructions on how to treat that person. So, if that person picks the phone up, calls facilities maintenance and says, I need a new light bulb, I expect facilities maintenance goes out there and gives them a new light bulb, right? But should they? Because who else can call and ask for a new light bulb? So, I mean, what you've got right now is you've got an arrangement that, I mean, this is like Mr. Henderson said, it requires historical knowledge to know who I communicate with, who I talk to, who I work with. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. I mean, this is a policy question. That person getting the phone call saying, hey, I've got a plumbing leak, will you come fix it? That person ought to know, well, let me check the policy and see what I'm called upon to do. Or if he breaks a window, if the guy running that facility, he's bored one day, he's throwing a ball in the parking lot, he breaks a window, who's responsible for fixing that window? I don't know. He's got no legal obligation to do anything. So I think what we need to do, and it could be that this policy may have been, I will freely admit, this policy may omit some of those important issues because I don't know those important issues, but it needs to address those issues. And what I did to try to address that, and again, a lot of times things I present to you in a vacuum. It's simply my recommendation, and it's because if I don't give you a recommendation, you're just going to be stuck never doing anything. But what we did do is we included in the lease agreement that's attached a blank to describe the use of the property. So the instance that you're explaining, under that we would put that the occupant makes the property available for civic and family functions through lease agreements or through short-term. I don't want to say short-term rental because that everybody thinks of Airbnb or something when you do that. But through temporary use agreements or something like that. And we could then acknowledge, a rate structure and rules and regulations and things like that. So, I mean, we're trying to do a one size fits all, and maybe one size doesn't fit all, right? Maybe we need to separate a traditional community center from just a center available to the public. And, if what you've got is someone managing that facility on behalf of the county, we need to formalize that arrangement somehow. We need to define legal rights, legal responsibilities. There's a lot, you wouldn't do this, look, if you owned a piece of property and, you owned a farm in South Georgia and there were 6 buildings on it, you wouldn't just let some random guy just handle it. And as far as the government goes, if you're doing that, it's just some random guy handling it, And I don't mean that critical toward the individual, because I don't expect he would have been doing it for this long if he was doing something wrong. But, it is inherently part of the nature of my job to trust no one. I would rather write it down and not rely on trust, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Mason, then Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So listening to the discussion, it sounds like what this board's objective is to come up with some level of uniformity on how we lease these particular county-owned facilities versus community centers. I think we're getting caught up in the term community center versus a county-owned facility. So I think what we're really talking about is every single county-owned facility, which maybe that's what the resolution needs to state, versus community centers, county-owned facility, and how they're going to be uniform all across the board. And so maybe what we need to vote on tonight maybe isn't this particular document, but maybe what we need to vote on tonight is to say we do want a uniform policy on how we lease these facilities out to anybody, whether they're, the 501c3s, nonprofits. We need to make a decision on, are we going to put a policy in place or are we not going to put a policy in place? And I think the best thing is, from what I'm hearing from the board tonight, we all want a policy. We all want uniformity. And so I think that's what we really need to focus on tonight is, do we want a uniformity? Now, what we can do, if we want to look at this particular resolution and say, okay, we all want to, vote on a policy or a specific type of agreement for all these county-owned properties. We know that's what we want to do. We will take this document, give, us 2 weeks to review it, come back on the 21st. If anybody wants to make any changes, we can do that and have it ready to vote on the actual document itself, say by the next meeting, and still allow those tenants, like we said, to remain in those facilities until we come up with an official document. Then once we come up with the agreement on the official document, then we take that document, we present it to those that are currently tenants, and say, these are the guidelines that you want to follow because this is what this board has actually stated. So maybe that's the process we need to go through from this point, based off of the discussion.
Let me make an observation and a suggestion. I've heard a lot of feedback tonight that's been very helpful, and I think Mr. Sims would agree that the feedback we've heard is going to help us produce for you a better document. You don't need to vote to bring it back at another day. I think what I would suggest you do, and this doesn't require action, let Mr. Sims and I work on a revision to this, trying to incorporate the things that have come up and trying to tackle some of these issues and expand it to potentially other facilities and bring it back. I mean, look, this may take a few times, but I think it might make better sense to let us revise this, distribute it to the board, and maybe put it on another agenda just for more discussion rather than action. And let's get it to something that everybody's proud of, right? And keep in mind, you know, when we propose to the board a resolution, especially something like this, we want this. We want to hear from you. I mean, we're not saying it's this or nothing. This is the recommendation I would make, and I do. This is my recommendation if I take all of these other concerns out. If I just want to clean this up legally, this does a really good job of cleaning it up legally. Does it address Mr. Edwards' concerns? No, it doesn't. But it cleans up the problem legally. Does it express the concerns that all of the commissioners over here have raised? No, it doesn't. But it cleans it up legally. And that's kind of where I started. How do I clean this up? How do I clean this up legally? This checks that box. But it doesn't check your collective boxes. And your boxes matter more than mine. I'm here to give you advice. You're here to vote. And whether you vote in accordance with my advice, that's up to you, not up to me. So I think we can work on making revisions like this. We will expand pages 1 through 4. We will probably eliminate the remainder of the pages, the kind of the stuff, and you know, we don't need to. We included, look, a good 25 pages of these are existing leases. Just wanted you to have them. But we will expand this into something I think that addresses, at least starts to address your concerns. I will say this. I think when we say all the facilities are going to get treated exactly the same, I do think we have to differentiate between government-operated facilities and facilities operated by anybody other than government, whether we call them nonprofits, individuals, because you don't need these policies for your property.
Right.
Because if we're going to apply it to your property, then it's going to apply to the sheriff's building, it's going to apply to the courthouse, and that, you're not going to have the same set of rules apply to the courthouse that apply to, you know, the property on Lassiter Street. That doesn't make any sense, right? So I think we will distinguish between properties devoted to governmental functions and then properties devoted to everything else. So, but we'll get something. I mean, I think I've heard some really good feedback. It's going to help me make this something that
So
I
I
think
guess with that being said, how do we vote on this tonight?
I don't think you have
knowing
to
that.
tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
so
I think we
okay.
can. I think we can push this and take your comments and, yeah.
Okay, so first, Commissioner, you withdraw your motion, that's correct?
Yes, I'm going to withdraw my motion since we've had the discussion.
Okay, Commissioner Henderson? No, go ahead and make your comments.
I'll tell you what mine is that we also, I've been living in this county my whole life. And when I go to I call it community center in Mansfield with my, you know, they have parties and stuff in that building. And it's similar to, if not the same as Nelson Heights. But yet we didn't have that on this list too as well. And if we're gonna do something that's gonna be uniformly, we all do, let us think about looking at those facilities and have a list of all the county facilities. And then maybe we take a good look at see how we might want to have them operated. Now, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to move on, and we can do whatever the chair may want to do the next subject. But the idea that I thought we had, and it was for County Manager Sims came aboard as our interim county manager, it was that they were going to give Ms. Terry a look at and write out a lease. That was my understanding. And maybe a little bit before Patrick came here too as well. That was my understanding. And it wasn't supposed to be so complicated. We one time out kicking nobody out. It was just, hey, look here, just figure out a lease, the same as all the other facilities, and let's move forward. And so I just think that it gives excess stamina to a heap of people to the way possibly this was presented. And maybe we should have had a work session, and maybe you hashed out what we wanted rather at this particular meeting. But we are kind of where we need to be at right now. Take a deep breath and look at it, and then make a decision from that point on. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanders?
I just have a quick question looking at the lease, and I apologize with me looking down. I'm still trying to read this document. Section B, where it's mentioned, of course, the no alcohol, drugs, and firearm. All drugs, alcohol, or firearms are strictly prohibited on the surrounding premises and inside the community facilities in all times. This probably needs to be edited and says every facility on the county, because we do have facilities that rent out for weddings and special events. So if we're doing this for all facilities, maybe we need to edit this and say if they're renting it for a wedding or whatever, they have to have, I guess, do they have to have an alcohol license permit or whatever it may be, that needs to be put in there for all. How does that work, Council? Okay. Yeah. So that needs to be done for all properties, or we say no alcohol on every property? Because if you have facilities, we do have some that do rent out for special events, and if they happen to have a licensed wedding or a licensed bartender there, and we're saying, but you have community centers, and normally in community centers, they rent it out for either receptions or events. So if we're saying no alcohol, that needs to be for all facilities, or we put in there, you have to have a licensed bartender or whatever. I don't drink, I might drink a glass of wine once in a while, but I can't tell you how they're supposed to be put in here, but that needs to be done for all facilities. And also Section F, we need to remove specific facilities. We still have Allman, Cousins, Mansfield, Nelson's, and Washington Street. This needs to be a generic lease for everybody in the county, so it doesn't look discriminatory. It doesn't say somebody has something different. Certain properties can do certain things. If we're gonna do it right, let's do it right.
Thank you. Next, we got citizens' comments. This is an opportunity to allow the citizens to make comments. You got 3 minutes to do so. Please come up and state your name, your address for the record, please.
Barbara Morgan, 2158 East Street, Covington, Georgia. Uvalde, Texas. I don't need to tell you what happened there last week. It is horrible, unimaginable, sickening. In a letter published last week in a local newspaper, Oxford City Council person Jim Wyndham wrote, "Dear Mrs. and Mr. Defender of the Second Amendment, while I disagree with your interpretation, I do applaud your efforts to defend the Constitution. I just want to know, what would it take for you as a group to sit down and discuss reforms that would stop the slaughter of innocent children? What would it take to pass a law requiring a special license and registration for weapons of war that are currently readily available to anyone? I want to know, where is the outrage that is called for and is missing? Outrage is missing from churches, media, sports figures, police officials, elected officials, and so forth. Sure, there are some, but they are the proverbial voices in the wilderness. Where are the authority figures and their outrage? Are we too comfortable in our little nooks that we continue to sacrifice innocent children so as not to jeopardize our comfortable existence? Are we just going to send thoughts and prayers until it is our innocence and then ask, why doesn't somebody do something? New York Times columnist Michael Gerson wrote today, "Is the slaughter of innocents the unavoidable price of freedom?" At the Oxford City Council meeting last night, Jim Wyndham said, "I am so dismayed by an action that I will be asking the council to draft a resolution to the governor, state legislators, and our senators and representatives requesting rational restrictions on all automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines." It passed 7-0. I would ask this BOC to consider something similar. How difficult would it be to call on legislative officials to simply seek a ban on sales of military assault weapons to anyone under 21? What is complicated about that? A local law enforcement official to whom I proposed the thought replied, "It's complicated." Not really, I would say. Could this BOC not do something so simple, pass a resolution to say something that simple, one by one, Local government should seize the moment to make a simple but powerful statement that enough is enough, and one by one, maybe we could accomplish something to save 19 other elementary school children before it happens here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Archie Shepherd, 9169 Village Drive, Covington, Georgia. First of all, I just want to say that Miss Terry James been just jump up and move in that building. Lord Curry, myself, and Miss James, and the other gentleman what do all the stuff around here, met in that building. He asked Miss James how did he want their office laid out and everything. It's so plain to see tonight that if she hadn't moved in that building, we wouldn't be here now. Everything was going on. We can see how people are using people to get to her. But the thing is, it's just so plain, like Mr. Sanders said, it's so plain what is going on. And Mr. Sims, you came in, Lord Curry had already approved her to move in that building. She didn't just move over there in that building. And then now y'all try to, I don't know, railroad it, talking about a one-year lease. Whoever heard tell her 1 year lease. It's just so plain what is going on. It's awful the way y'all going on up here trying to railroad. Why not just go on and tell the lady to get out of there and you won't have to go through all of this? That's the best thing to do. We see, there's nobody dumb enough here tonight not to see what's going on. It's ridiculous the way y'all going on trying to do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Howard Briggs, and I live at 55 River Shores Court, Covington, Georgia. I just want to say this, that band room over there, when I was a little boy, we grew up, we had to walk every day. We watched cars and everything to get what we needed in that band room. That band room means something to us. Children, you don't just be doing it and everything to that. Same thing with Washington Street Community School over there. I go there myself and try to teach those kids, help them with their homework and stuff like that. You don't need to be messing with that. And then, like everything you guys target is in the black community. I'm quite sure they got some buildings somewhere in the white community. You ain't said nothing about none of those, or do they have any buildings in the white community that you're looking at? Mr. Kyle, I want to say this about my neighborhood over there at 55 River Shores Court. Ever since you put that spray field over there, it's smelling bad over there. You need to get something done about that. Over there off of Stevenson Road. That spray field that got over there to the right.
Guys,
you
go
know
ahead.
how you guys are logging in there.
Hey, guys, right, Commissioner
That's the
Cowles.
county.
You can, go ahead, sir.
And that's it. Wish you guys luck.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Johnny Stone. I live at 500 Cochran Road here in Covington, Georgia. I wanted to bring to this board's attention question number 11 on the Republican Party's vote. Do you believe senior citizens 75 years and over should be exempt from Board of Education property taxes? That vote, there was 10,501 people that voted. There was 9,815 that said yes. There's an overwhelming majority in the Republican Party. I believe the Democratic Party would have been the same way. There is a large majority of people who want seniors to get a tax break because of inflation. They're living on Social Security. Social Security gave us a nice raise. Great. They turned around and went up on Medicare enough to take that raise away. Property taxes that I'll pay this year take 1 month of my Social Security because my wife died. 1 month. I have to live a year on 11 months of Social Security because of taxes. My suggestion would be, since a majority of these people want to give seniors a break, y'all have nothing to do with the Board of Education except you have a great influence in this county can express it. The school board has been telling me they're working on it, but you could freeze the county tax that people pay at 75, where it will not increase till they die, where they can live in the same house that they have lived in this county and not have to sell it because the county taxes have gone up so high they cannot afford to live there. As far as the gun control, I mean, this is a modern age. All you have to do to stop the guns is put a fingerprint trigger, safety on it. The only person that can use that gun is the person that that fingerprint goes on. You couldn't steal guns and use them. The people who own the gun can use it. They've already been through it. Kids can't pick them up and shoot somebody with them. People can't steal them. Just a simple safety of a fingerprint. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good afternoon. My name is Thelma Starnally. I live at 3163 Stone Mountain Street. I've lived in this county all my life. And you know, it's a shame, as some people call it, airing your dirty laundry. But you know, when all of y'all are elected officials, except for some of y'all, and I know that y'all are supposed to speak on our behalf, but when you give the board something and they're supposed to be reading it instead of listening to everything else that's going on up here, that's a shame. Because if you're supposed to be the county manager, then these people should have had this stuff 3 or 4 weeks ago and give them a chance to look over it instead of everybody got to look and everybody got to talk. That's kind of like embarrassing. Everybody get happy when you bring a plant in this county, but it's a shame that you bring a plant in this county. They get these big tax deduction and everything. We get left holding the bill. People are not making a normal living wage. Some people have to work 2 and 3 jobs and still can't make it because if the tax ain't killing you, the utility bill from the city of Covington killing you. So, you know, it's a shame that people in our county, they have to go outside the county to make money. But then we give all these folks all these high tax brackets. So what about us sometime? And just like they were saying about the gun problem, you know, it was in Texas. But hey, what's gonna happen when it comes to Newton County and we start losing our kids? It's gonna be too late then because you got so many people that, you know, we're supposed to let our kids bury us. But nowadays, we are burying our kids. So, you know, everything is gang-related. And I'm getting so sick and tired of everything being gang-related. We got a governor sitting up there. Ain't nothing touched his family. So, you see, he signed a bill where, oh, anybody can own a gun now. So everybody start picking up guns no matter what color you're shooting each other. But when you start killing babies, we got a problem. And then when you start putting values on who can do this at a community center and who can do that at a community center, we still pay taxes on all this stuff. So why don't we stop fooling ourselves and do our job, okay? Y'all need to sit and y'all need to do y'all job because y'all are elected by the people. You know, the seats that y'all sitting in, them seats belong to us. The money y'all getting paid. I know y'all pay taxes, well, I guess you do. I can't say that for everybody. So I'm just saying, we need to stop playing games. We need to wake up, and we need to realize the kids are our future. The senior citizens, they got us to where we're at now. The kids are supposed to be coming along. But after a while, we ain't gonna have no kids to bring us along. Because God sit high, he look low. He's gonna bring a storm through Newton County that nobody's gonna believe. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything.
Okay, hold on, we got one more person.
Good evening.
My name is Annette Alston from Trelawney Subdivision, and I'm just listening to the comments that were made today, and I am concerned that you did get the documentation that was supposed to be voted on today on the same day. Please don't let that happen again. Please make sure that they get these resolutions in a timely manner so that they can properly go through it, okay? Because that's embarrassing, okay? And I think that's embarrassing for all of you. Secondly, I'm concerned about Ms. James being, it seems like a target. This historical society is much needed. It's been in existence for a while. It's done great work in terms of bringing Juneteenth to Newton County for some time. They've been doing good work, and I think that they're moving into that facility is the right thing. It gives them an opportunity to expand and do even more in terms of history. So I hope that, you know, when they apply and put that lease forward, that there's no nonsense and that they are given this lease and are able to continue. Thirdly, when people make silly statements, it's nerve-wracking, and I just have to comment on it in terms of this fingerprinting with the gun. This 18-year-old that shot up these 19 children and 2 teachers got the gun legally. He could have gotten a fingerprint. He still would have shot everyone. The problem is the AK-14 is not necessary. Get rid of it. It kills people. It destroyed these kids. They couldn't even recognize these kids. They had to do DNA to recognize, to get who these kids are. Stop the insanity, please. Get rid of this machine. It is not necessary. It is not for hunting. It is only for killing. And if nothing else, it should have been evident from what happened to these poor children and what's happened across the country before and after this that hasn't gotten as much attention. So please, focus on the reality of this gun should not exist. Get rid of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make a brief announcement. We are having our movie night in the park on this coming Friday, June the 10th. It is a free community event. It's going to be at Denny Dobbs Park, 6244 Highway 212 in Covington, Georgia 30016. We want to invite everybody to come out. Bring your lawn chairs, bring your blankets. We will have food vendors there as well. So if you don't bring your movie snacks, you can purchase from the food vendors that are there. So I just want to take this opportunity to invite everybody out to Denny Dobbs Park this Friday. We'll start probably around 7 o'clock. The movie may start around 8:30-ish or so. So we want to invite everybody out to come out and have a great movie night. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few announcements for those who came to the ARPA Fund Committee yesterday. The application is up and running for the nonprofit and small businesses. You can go on the county website and apply for those funds. Just a few dates here on June 11th, which is this weekend. The Ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is hosting Dinner in Rouge at Legion Field. If you heard of Dinner in Blanc, where people go and wear the white, you've probably seen that in Atlanta, but the first ever here in Newton County is going to be hosted at Legion Fields, where we were doing Dinner in Red. So that's going to be a very extravagant event. You can still go online and get those tickets for there. And it's going to be live band, DJ, and all the individuals going to have their tables dressed out. And you're going to see Legion Fields decked out in red. On June 18th, it's a Juneteenth parade and celebration at Legion Fields. June 23rd at 6 p.m. at the Sheriff's Office is at the West Side Precinct Office, is the meeting for the West Side Youth Facility for those who want to meet with the project manager, Mr. Jeff Prime, our Parks and Rec Director, and also our interim county manager will be there as well to ask questions, discussion, and we together will see the plans, as I have not seen them as well. So that will be on June 23rd. On Monday, June 27th, we have a town hall for District 4. We have a developer who will be there speaking in regards to bringing something to the county. Actually, it's going to be Enterprise looking to come to District 3. So they're going to speak to the residents, and the residents can ask questions on why they want this property to come into the business, to the county. July 9th, we have, I'm partnering with Joint Heirs Church of Love for their Community Day, so make sure you come to that at 10 a.m. And on August 20th is our second annual Ladies Retreat at 6 p.m. And that's all my announcements.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't have too much to say other than the fact that I was never more proud of than the time that we dedicated the building to Mr. T.K. Adams. And I don't think nobody up here could ever say what he had done for this community, for all of us, him and Miss Adams. And we just love them. We love them because they stood for us when we had nobody to stand for us. And we thank them and we love them for that. And so did other people too as well. And that's why we're standing on their shoulders. Their shoulders to just do what's right. Let us not move backwards. Don't move us backwards. You know, I seen a commercial on TV about the governor, Brian Kemp, and it's one that Stacy did, and where she was moving backwards. Well, we don't want to move backwards. We want to move forward. And we cannot move forward unless we all move together. You know, and I'm all for a peaceful march, peaceful demonstration, and I think that I know that history repeats itself, and we got a long road to travel, and I think we need to train our kids that they need to stand up for what's right. They need to follow good leaders such as Commissioner Sanders, and because she's going to lead them in the right direction. They need to follow old people because they will give them the strength that they need by telling them what struggles we had in order to get where we are now today. But it's not the end. This is the beginning, because together, you know, we can make a difference. We will make a difference. And let us all come together for once on the Juneteenth parade. Let's all us together stop. Shut the doors up when you go around the square, and they shut the doors up. Let's all open the doors up. And a few people have been to open up doors, and let's come out and celebrate the time that in the stuff that we have did here in Newton County. This county make itself. We made Newton County great together. Thank you, Mr. C.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jarvis, I appreciate you getting this resolution to us. I know we've been waiting on it. Some people have been concerned about, you know, it was a last-minute thing, but we have to lay it out on the table for us to discuss it like that. So I'm glad it was done. We now know where we're going to head to with this. So I appreciate you getting that done for us. I know I gave you a hard time on the budget last week, but that's all right. I know you're going to do a good job with that. So we'll get through that. I just want to say I'm actually proud of our board. I like discussion. I like intelligent, rational discussion. And I think tonight we did that.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, I even look at you. I even look at JC, but I think we had some rational discussion on things, and I appreciate that. Commissioner Sanders, I do have a donation for the Juneteenth. I would like to. Well, I can't remember. Oh, it's okay. Okay, whoever I gave it to last year, I can't remember. I gave it to JC and he lost the check. He lost the check and I had to write it again. But that's all right. I've got one, and I'll make sure that gets to y'all. And I think overall, I'm very proud of our board. Thank y'all for coming around. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mason left off something. Go ahead, sir.
I did. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to also announce I'm going to be having a Facebook Live community conversation on Thursday, this coming Thursday at 6:00 p.m. via Facebook Live. It is going to be with the Grants and Community Coordinator of A Child's Voice Child Advocacy Center Incorporated. They really focus on child abuse awareness. And so we want to make sure that in this discussion, we find ways to care about and love our children. Ms. Lauren Gregory with the A Child's Voice Child Advocacy Center Incorporated, who is going to be my special guest on my community conversations. So if you are on Facebook, tune in at 6:00 p.m. We will be having a great discussion centered around child abuse awareness. I also wanted to make mention that Washington Street Community Center is having their 9th annual Jazz in the Village concert series this coming Saturday, June 11th. The doors open at 6:30. The concert starts at 7. It's going to be at Porter Memorial Gymnasium, 2201 Main Street, Porterdale, Georgia 30014. They have single tickets. You can purchase a table. And they have sponsorship packages as well. So you can probably go to social media or contact Washington Street Community Center to find out more details about the Jazz in the Village concert series this coming Saturday. Doors open at 6:30 and 7. And then one last final announcement that I forgot to announce. I have been honored to be the keynote speaker for the African American Male Wellness Symposium on June the 25th, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. This is going to be held at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, 6400 Woodrow Road in Stonecrest, Georgia. The host is Dr. LaCleisha Izzard. And so I'm just honored to be able to be the keynote speaker. There's going to be some other amazing male speakers. So we're inviting everybody to come out on June 25th, 2022, hear yours truly, as the keynote speaker for the African American Male Wellness Symposium, as well as all of the other guest speakers that will be there tonight. We really want to do everything we can to focus on African American male wellness and make sure that they are well overall. And so that was all I had.
I do quickly want to remind the commissioners that we have 4-minute time limit.
We do. I'm sorry, I forgot that.
No, guys, seriously, we want to make sure that we partner with Juneteenth, and we do have funds in the event portion of our budget. When we partner with the city, and not the city, we partner with the chamber and other people like that in the community. So I want to make sure that we partner with Juneteenth and want to pay for the rental of Legion Field. So I'll be getting with you on that, and we want to do that, make sure we do that. Also, guys, we are not having an executive session tonight. I thought we were, but it's been canceled. And there's treats for the commissioners down, I think, in the commissioner's office. If you guys want to stop by there and get your treat. We thought it was going to be a long day, but it wasn't. We had to cancel a couple of meetings, and we ordered lunch for you guys because we knew it was going to be a long day. So please stop by and grab your treat. All right. Guys, I seek a motion that we, thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Cowell. All in favor? We stand adjourned.